This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to get wide. Edge of the box. Foley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Oliveira! It's wide! They've only gone and done it again! Forest back in the lead from Gordon Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent. It is very quick how football can change things as Forest run out 3-0 losers away to the champions of Manchester City. Joining me to discuss the defeat are Lee Clark and Reese Coy 2.0. Reese, how are you first of all? Are you well?
Yeah, good mate. Not too bad, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Have you got the manager's coat on? Are you prepared to take over from Nuno if in need?
Yeah, I've just been walking up and down the touchline, mate, down the road. Just practicing my speech for United away.
Just tutting away like. Oh,
yeah.
Lee, how are you as well?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, ready to get stuck into this podcast.
You said at the weekend it's great how football can like really make your mood, and now it's midweek and it's like miserable, and you're like, oh, it's near the end of the weekend at least, so another game coming round. But what was your just an overall kind of feeling after yesterday's defeat?
I mean, we lost to Man City. I mean, yeah, I just I can already feel that I'm going to get some sort of like over. I don't know. I don't want to be positive for the sake of being positive, but we've just lost to one of the best teams in the world. Did people think that because they've had a bad 3 or 4 weeks that they were all of a sudden rubbish? I mean, some of the stuff Reese. Reese actually always says that social media isn't a reflection. Well, it's a good job because, I mean, you'd think we'd just lost to bloody... And, I mean, no disrespect to West Bridgford Colts, but you'd think we'd just lost to West Bridgford's under-19s or something. I mean, we're still playing one of the best teams in the world, and it just so coincided that they played us when the main talisman was ready to start a game for the first time since September. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not in any real different shape to I was after the Ipswich game, to be honest. I feel pretty similar to how I did at the weekend, I'll be honest.
Same question to you, Reese?
Yeah, agree with Lee. There's an air of inevitability about it. Whenever I spoke to anyone outside of Forest fan base, I said it's going to be today. It's obvious. Some things are obvious, and I mean I just made a point to my brother Mason just before this, and it's like if you'd been in a blackout for 6 weeks and come back and the first thing you did was check your phone at the results, and then you looked at the last 4 results, you'd go, well, yeah, okay. Without any context, they are what they are. You'd expect that. So to feel any other sort of way about it it's Forest have just sucked us into thinking that we're going to be beating your cities and everyone away from home and everything's going to be rosy all the time, but that's not football. So yeah, I feel all right.
It's all Nuno's fault for beating Liverpool away.
It is.
That's what it is.
Exactly
that is generally what it is.
Yeah,
it's generally what it is. Just before we get right into it, changes, Reese, were Moreno, Elanga, Dominguez coming back in for Nico Williams, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Elliot Anderson. Forest went brave and went still 4-2-3-1 and kind of tried to go at City in that respect. If you're looking at it on paper, what did you make of that lineup when you first saw it?
To be honest, I thought if you went back to the Ipswich game, the lineup was predictable based on the changes at Ipswich. I think you could pretty much foresee what there was. The only surprise was Elanga, but then looking at how they've been with a clip ball in behind, it made sense. And obviously Dominguez back in there to be his ratty self alongside Yates. Obviously, whether that transpired or not is a completely different story. But I was all right with the team, to be honest. Jota obviously kept his shirt, and it made sense having two more direct. I know Callum's direct, but he likes to tuck in. I thought the idea was to try and pin them, let them play, break on the counter attack, clip over the top, and getting behind, which obviously it didn't come to fruition, but I could see what Nuno was thinking.
I mean, Lee, did you have any different opinion on that?
No, I agree with that. It's funny because I think some of the critique I've seen is that we were a bit too negative and didn't have a go. I don't think people watch the same game as me, if that was the case. I think the one thing you've got to give credit to Nuno for is that he stuck with the 4-2-3-1. He stuck with the principle, even though City were probably always going to play those three in midfield. I think it was perhaps a little bit naive in hindsight. I think the idea that Reece has just mentioned, that we clip it over the top and catch them out in the areas that they've been caught out in recent weeks, was a nice one. But I just think playing that third centre midfielder, matching them up, it'd have probably given us, it had probably sent a message to City that we were actually willing to match them up. Whereas I think when they saw our team with the two centre mids, I know that everyone's got this romantic idea that Gibbs White, if he's playing in the 10, will drop in and be a central midfielder. But it's a completely different skill set. It's not something that, when you're playing that 4-2-3-1 sort of system, it's not something that the manager wouldn't want him to be doing that all the time anyway, because when we get the ball, he needs to be ready to sort of get it. So, yeah, I think it probably highlights as well that he's not overly convinced by Ward-Prowse, perhaps, to throw him in there for a game like that. I think it might have been a little bit harsh as well, giving him two starts and they're against City and Arsenal. So, yeah, it probably represents that we are a little bit short on bodies in midfield, but I think that was the only reservation I had, especially when I saw that De Bruyne was back as well.
Yeah, we've got a question later to refer back to the formation and kind of team personnel, so we'll come back to it. Game started off pretty well for City, you'd say, Reece. I mean, they started as their fluid, normal selves, and then before we knew it, it was 1-0, and kind of, I think, well, myself being in the away end, kind of just thought this is the start of a painful night. And I mean, Kevin De Bruyne, welcome back, I guess. Freedom of the City, freedom of the Etihad, and header across to Bernardo Silva to tap out. I mean, what the heck happened from your point of view watching it at home?
Morgan Gibbs White's fault for me. Doesn't follow Gundogan, peels straight off him, which then in turn it looks like we try and defend in sort of, whether Nuno sort of squares it out in little blocks where you defend. And there's sometimes where you don't have to stick to a rigid game plan. And I think if Morgan follows it, the inevitable might still happen, but he lets Gundogan drift off him. And this isn't a Morgan issue. This is a Forest central midfield issue and probably fullback issue as well. I mean, Mangala was so guilty of it all the time, letting players run off them. But in turn, by doing so, he's then asking Milenkovic to sort of step out half a yard. The ball's clipped over, gets knocked back in. And if you actually look, before Gundogan peels off, Milenkovic is actually on Bernardo Silva. And it leaves him a yard further away from Bernardo Silva. But you get that with good players. So, but for me, the initial thing of not following the runners would be on Morgan for me. It doesn't make him less of a talisman or anything else. Just for me, that goal, as with a couple of the goals, are instigated by lack of following, and just everyone's got a job in football, and it almost looked a little bit like it's, well, he's gone past me. There's a 6'5" Serbian who's been heading bricks for the past 6-7 weeks. He'll do it. He didn't do it, and if you're passing the buck on against a Man City, you're going to get punished. So that's how I see it. I think it initially comes from Morgan not following the runner.
I mean, I also thought Dominguez should be marking De Bruyne really as well. I think like this is the thing about City. Do you play like man to man against them or what? Because it's so difficult. Obviously, like Liverpool just managed to. You lose
both ways, Adam. You lose both ways. Yeah. But I think if you're going to stick to one of the two, you can't do neither, because then they score. So you've got to do one of the two.
Definitely. I mean, Lee. Not long after that, I mean, we have possibly the most gilt-edged chance you'll ever get against Man City. And, well, actually, no, sorry. Before we get into that, Morgan White has a chance, doesn't he? I mean, great work from Jota down the right-hand wing to win the ball off. I think it's Gvardiol or is it Diaz? I'm not sure. I think it's Gvardiol, though. I mean, great cutback, and I thought Morgan had scored, to be honest.
Yeah, he hit it quite well, didn't he? By Gibbs White's standards. It was only on Sunday's podcast, wasn't it? We were saying it'd be nice if he could work on that shooting technique a little bit. But I think he did everything right, really. I just think it was one of those that it was probably a nice sight for the keeper, and it was a pretty good save in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he should score. Maybe Reece might say he should score as well. If we all think he's worth 60, 70 million quid or whatever it is, and should be playing for England, I feel like he maybe should score that. But we'll talk about the Wood chance now, because I mean, we can all have a say on this, because I generally thought, I was like, this is the bloke that you want running through on goal. I mean, he did it absolutely brilliantly to latch onto it. I mean, to get away from Ruben Diaz, because we all think Wood's not that fast, but he actually looked rapid last night.
He tried to be too cute, I thought. I think in that situation, this is one of them things that I'm always a little bit uneasy about speaking about, because obviously, I mean, having never played at that sort of level, it's difficult to know what sort of pressure they're under and that sort of stuff. But I just think he tried to put it into that inside post, and I think in theory the bigger part of the goal there, the keeper's always going to narrow that sort of angle down. I think if he'd opened his body up and gone the other way, I think it would have been a more routine finish for him. But yeah, I actually read something good from someone. Someone sent me something last night. And it's weird with Wood, because you always feel like he's more likely to score when he's got less time to think about things. I know you've just said there, Adam, that you fancied him to score. In a really weird way, for such an informed striker, I wasn't necessarily certain that he would put it away. It was a really strange situation, because I think he's better when he's kind of got less time to think about things. But yeah, I still did, with the form he is in, I still did think he'd at least get it on target or make the keeper produce a bit of a worldie of a save sort of thing.
Yeah, Reece, your thoughts?
Yeah, he's got to score. He's got to score. I agree. I thought the snake hips of Newcastle away were coming out, to be honest. I thought he was going to sell the keeper on his backside and just roll it in, to be honest. But yeah, I must admit, now Lee said it, I probably think the same. When he was running through, there's something niggling away at you that thinks the longer he's got, the less likely he is to score. If he sort of fox in the box, snapshots, chances like that, he takes them. He's done everything right. Unhitched his caravan, broke through, and sort of. I mean, it's once again quoting that horrible quote. It's them fine margins in it, but you've got to score. You've got to score, because we still feel a little bit behind the rest of the cluster of teams in that way. I think the other top 10 teams put them away, and that's just where we're struggling at the moment. It's them big moments where, because they wobble at 1-1, and that for me, once that goes wide in the back of your mind, you sort of sat there thinking it's just one of them days, I think. But he's got to score.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same. Snake hits Newcastle away, and he's kind of just going to wheel away. But I just thought, like, if he goes for the other side and Ortega makes a save, I just go fair enough. Like, keeper's done really, really well, and it's just one of them. But like, yeah, just so annoying, and I think that's when kind of it gets killed off, because the next goalie, I mean, we could all have a discussion about it. I'm sure this is where might make or break the podcast. I guess we might get cancelled maybe on this one, because I think we've all got different opinions. But Jeremy Doku cuts inside. Yates, he tries to basically fend off Yates, and Yates gets clipped in the face and goes down. And Doku seems to just pass the ball into Kevin De Bruyne, who seems to have, again, the freedom of the pitch to lash home into the top corner, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Yeah, Yates was on the pitch, wasn't he? I don't understand. That's supposed to be what Yates is. This is what we play Yates for, isn't it? Those situations, being a narc, being a bit of a nuisance, making sure that players don't skip past him, basically. I think what I would say is, if that's James Ward-Prowse doing that and going down, clutching his face, trying to con Michael Oliver into giving a free kick, there's probably, how many does the away end, or 2,000, 3,000 at City? They're all willing to put James Ward-Prowse in the car and take him back to West Ham there and then, aren't they? If that's him doing that. And you know what? I don't even feel bad saying that, because Nuno didn't like it either. Because what was it? 15 minutes later, when the half-time whistle blew, he'd made his mind up to take him off. So, and I think if you listen to his presser afterwards, he was quizzed on why he took him off. People were presuming he was injured. Even the commentary said he must have been injured because he's the captain. Nuno gave a 7-word response, which suggests he's not injured, he's fine, and it was a tactical decision. It was a tactical decision because he was miles and miles and miles out of his depth in that first half. And do you know what? Ryan Yates won't be the only person that looks out of his depth against that Man City midfield. Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, they're great players, but that effort to try and stop Doku for the second goal was absolutely criminal. It was just, that is everything that Ryan Yates is not. That is everything that Ryan Yates should be good at. That's why he plays. He's a narc, he's a nuisance. He puts tackles in, he makes it difficult for players to get past him. This old trait that he's got of going down and trying, he did it in the very first minute. I don't know if anyone noticed yesterday. And Michael Oliver actually looked at him and he did that thing that refs do that I don't really like, where he kind of waved his finger at him. And do you know what? That was Michael Oliver 1 minute in, turning around and saying, "You're not getting them free kicks off me." That should have been his signal to think, do you know what? This ref's all right. I'm not going to get them tonight. Let's play football and let's do what I'm good at. And he didn't. And he's got to stop doing that because it cost us a goal last night.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head because Michael Oliver was a ref against Liverpool, and when Luis Diaz has that chance when he nicks the ball off him on the goal line, he tries to go down. I believe. I'm pretty sure it's that. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure
he's got to learn. He's not going to get those in. He's not going to get those decisions in every game. Refs are getting wise to him, and that's what they do. The refs at that level, they have documents and documents of players and teams and what they do and what trademarks they've got. Well, Ryan Yates has got a bit of a reputation for himself that he likes to try and win the cheap free kick. And sadly, lots of there will be times when he is fouled and he wins really good fouls. He's good at that. I always say that Jack Colback taught him well in that respect, because when he gets his body in front of the ball, I mean, Gundogan won a good one from Silva where he just had a little look where he was going. He knew that Jota was going steaming straight in, and he ended up fouling him. Yates is pretty good at doing that as well, but those sort of ones where he just goes down holding something, expecting to get some sort of decision, it's got to stop that.
I mean, I think also what annoyed me is that the way that Doku's just passed the ball to De Bruyne, and Gibbs White and Dominguez have both probably looked at De Bruyne, and neither of them have done anything, and are just caught in no man's land, and he's just got so much time and space, pick his spot, 2-0, pretty much game over. I mean, Reece, do you have anything more to say on the incident, or has Lee kind of hit the nail on the head?
He's saved me on the podcast. He saved you an awful lot of bleeps and yeah, shambolic from Yates. My head fell so far off when he did that. It was unbelievable. I mean, the staunch defense of this leader who runs through brick walls and so on. I actually put in our chat, I don't know if you caught up with it, I said if that happened at Arnold Town on a Saturday, Mason or Danny aren't letting me back in the car. They're not letting me back in the car. If I go down clutching my face like that, rather than jockeying your man, I mean, the bit afterwards as well is awful, is really bad. I mean, you give anyone time, let alone Kevin De Bruyne, it's writing's on the wall. But for me, it was Yates. It was Yates. I actually think he sort of shadows him out a little bit and slows the play down if he stays on his feet. A bit concerning, but it just. Yeah, I won't go too much more into it because it's your guys' pod, and I don't want to cause ripples beyond. It's not fair for you lot, so I'll keep it at that.
I mean, afterwards we had half chances through Alex Moreno, nice bit of play, Milenkovic, some blocks. I think Elanga had a shot blocked. And just like little bits and bobs, but I think City defended pretty well in some respects. But maybe we just it was one of those nights where we just weren't going to hit the target too much. Half time, obviously Yates took off for Morata, went 3-4-3. We actually started off what looked like it could be quite a good way to go at City and kind of get on them, because we did that in the home game last season when we lost 2-0 and did really well. But before you knew it, Doku makes it 3-0, Reece, and I have the biggest gripe with this goal, like more than the other two, because we've actually got the ball in an attacking position And before Alex Moreno decides to turn back, he should pass the ball to Elanga, or Elanga should make a run for him. And he doesn't. And as soon as that happens, I even said this to Reece in the ground. I said, we're going to turn back. City are going to corner us because we're going to do this stupid overload thing that we've been trying to do and doesn't work at the moment. I don't know what we're trying. And then they end up nicking the ball off us, and Doku's 1v1 against Milenkovic. And to be fair, Doku's terrifying 1v1 by the looks of it.
To be fair, they didn't nick the ball off us. Dominguez does a nonchalant flick for no reason. Once again, it's sort of it's an uneducated. If he gets hold of it, he may keep hold of it. But the flick itself, and then Aina's obviously committed the other side. So when I first seen it, I thought, where on earth's Aina? But I think we're obviously trying to play high up the pitch, trying to match them. So Aina's miles out of position. 2 passes, you're out. And I felt really sorry for Milenkovic, really, because that is one place he does not want to be, is 1v1, stood up against Doku. I mean, if you actually watch the goal back, Aina goes from running to a little bit of a jog and a little bit of a walk. He's almost at the point where it's like, well, I can see what's happening here. Milenkovic does everything he can, shows him onto his left, chops him inside, and it's a goal. And that's what happens against the big boys. They punish you. But I half commend it because we're trying to go for it. But then there's also a level of naivety that we've committed so high up the pitch, and to leave Doku so free 1v1 with Milenkovic with the greatest will in the world. He's either got to hit him first time, take the booking, or get stood up and try and get a bit of reinforcements back. And obviously he's done the latter, and it's just unfortunate, but it's also a bit naive from us, I think.
I mean, and that kind of all she wrote, really. I mean, we made subs. I think we kind of took players off with Saturday in mind. I think we took Wood off, we took Gibbs White off, Aina come off. I really felt sorry for Eric Da Silva Moreira. He's come on for a good 20 minutes, and Doku's just gave him an absolute torrid time as well. I felt so sorry for him. Reece said to me in the ground, like he says it's just so unfair. Says you've gone on, you go on against City, and he just. It was not probably a nice experience for the young lad, unfortunately. And I mean, I think at least it was only 3-0 and not the 6-0 that we got in the first season. But it's just, I think you just leave the ground so bitterly disappointed. There were so many groans and moans online, but we'll get into some of that because we're going to do your slept on it thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
We've got Gareth. He says, the way we are going, you'd think we'd lost away at Stoke. People are forgetting, bad run or not, City are a team full of world-class players. They turned up last night. A team of ability will punish you if you switch off. Plus, for me, we created chances. Grant Fellows, City were desperate to get a result and played okay, but we didn't help ourselves. Left De Bruyne completely free to do what he wanted most of the game and wasted at least 3 very clear-cut chances. Disappointing, but not like losing at the Etihad is something to be concerned about. Tom Newton, the perspective is Guimaraes, Ødegaard, De Bruyne, 70 million plus midfielders against us. Obviously, we've already made great progress this season. At the moment, we don't have these types of midfielders. 6 in the Premier League is still unbelievable. Man City are capable of turning it on. Johnny Ancliffe, Wood scores. It's a different game. City were very good. We weren't onto United. Forest fan family, not down about 3-0 to City, but the last 3 games we've lost, we've conceded 3. That's not great. The team set up seemed off, so the result was expected. City were going back to what they do. Positives, the ref had a decent game. Let's get ready for the red side of Manchester. Frank the Tank, Nuno let us down today. He set us up how Pep would set up a team to get his players sharp again, defend really deep, have massive gaps between the lines, have zero press. Just bizarre. Are we going to play how Man United want to as well? Neil, not fighting for survival produces performances like that. Not doing the dirty work when needed and not being clinical in front of goal proves costly. Need a response against United. Capanosity, not a shock. We played better than the previous 2 visits. The frustration is that City's goals came too easy. It isn't in Forest DNA to capitalise on another club's fragility. I thought the tactics were confused, didn't commit to the press or it's congesting the middle. Martin Fretwell, Wood chance was crucial. Didn't expect anything tonight, but concerned with the recent defensive frailty. And Peaches lost to Man City when they got Kevin De Bruyne back. Just our luck, not a season-defining loss, so things to improve, but massive gulf in quality on the pitch. They were all up for it, and it showed. On to the next, and hopefully a bounce back. Sixth, still not devastated. And then Christian also wrote in our group, slept on it thoughts. That was a ruthless reminder as to what happens in this league when you don't take your chances. Hard to blame Wood too much given his impeccable return this year, but if he scores that, we have something to defend against a side bereft of confidence. More concerningly, we were far too generous defensively, not tracking runners, trying to win fouls rather than do basics, and it killed us. City were never really likely to go 8 without a win, so let's draw a line under it and try and go get something out of stuttering Man United on Saturday. Thank you very much for getting all your slept on it thoughts. Sorry if I've not read any out. Thank you for people who have joined us this morning, so morning to all. I've not done any player performances, guys, because I just think there wasn't really anyone that I can go out and say, yeah, they did okay. And I don't really want to be on a pod where we just completely lambast players, because I just feel like it would be totally unfair and kind of a waste of energy, if you want to call it that. I think we've all got like our moans and groans out, and I think we have to like kind of look at a bigger picture and go, do you know what, we're still having a really good season. But I did want to ask you both a few questions. So Reece, I'm going to start with yourself, and Lee, you're going to chime in nothing anyway. But does it concern you that we've only scored 2 goals in the last 4 games and only 1 being a penalty, or do you have to look at some perspective and look at who we've played against as well, or not?
No, not overly. I mean, we've got the job done against the team we'd expect to get the job done against, and we've lost against the teams in a normal world where you didn't end up in third. You'd expect to lose. So my concern isn't that. It's the overall play for me. You might have a question on it going forward, but it's not a huge concern. Get this tough run of fixtures out of the way and look at it again. Got to reassess. I mean, at present we've beat all the teams within your 3rd season of the Premier League that you'd expect to beat, and we've lost and been competitive against teams that are better and more established than us. So I think it's par for the course, to be honest. I don't think there's nothing to be concerned about. Sometimes you can win games and lose games, and you don't have to be overly analytical. So it is what it is sometimes. And we've got a healthy amount of points on the board. I just think calm down a little bit. You can dive too deep into things. If you win 1-0 3 games in a row and it's an own goal, and that's the only chance you create, who's bothered? It's 9 points. I'm not really bothered where they come from. I just think just relax a little bit. We play some really good teams. And it's going to be like this in the Premier League.
Lee, anything to add to that?
Yeah, spot on. I was actually thinking that this morning, because people were replying to bits and bobs I put on Twitter, and there was some interesting stuff. Like Reece has just said, we beat Liverpool, and I honestly thought that might be a little bit like the Chelsea win last year, where we might go, because it's the Prem and it's brutal, we might go 2 or 3 months where we only get 3 or 4 points. Instead, we've done professional jobs against Palace, we've done a professional job against Ipswich, we've battered Leicester, we've battered West Ham. We're beating the teams we should in theory be looking to beat if we want to progress and finish top of the bottom half or even sneak into the top half. I just don't think there's any. I hate to break it to our fans, but we're not going to finish 6th. We're going to slide down the league further. I've just had a look. If results don't go for us tonight, we could be 8th. If United beat us on Saturday, they're guaranteed to go above us. We're going to slide down this table. But like we said on Sunday, we're absolutely nowhere near the bottom 3. People need to forget where we've come from and what path we're on. We're not going to just all of a sudden start having a good couple of. We won. What was it? 4 we won on the trot. 3 on the trot.
3 on the trot.
But we always knew this run was coming, and like we all said on the pod, it's good that we've got those points on the board, so that this little run we can the shackles can come off a little bit. Yeah, we'll want to be competitive in them. We'll want to not go all gung-ho in all of the games, but the points are on the board. If the worst happens and we lose to United and we lose to Villa, in theory, we're still going to be in a nice position going into that Brentford game. We're still going to have 22 points on the board. And that's not me writing those 2 games off, but it's the Prem. United might turn up. Rashford might be inspired like he was against Everton. You just don't know. You never know. A VAR decision might go against us. We might lose the game. Same with Villa. They're a bit Jekyll and Hyde, aren't they? Which Villa will turn up at Forest? We just don't know. So, yeah, I'd be more concerned about the goals if we weren't creating chances, but we are. So while we're doing that, I think it's only a matter, like we've said about City. I think it was Christian who said it in our group. There was going to come a game where City battered someone. One of my mates who I go to the game with, he said the same. I just hope it's not us. As it happened, it was. They beat us 3-0. But it was still a game where we had chances. I mean, in hindsight, it could have probably finished 3-2, if not 3-3, couldn't it? It could have probably finished 6-5, I suppose. But yeah, I'd be more concerned if we weren't creating the chances. And you'd like to think if we stay true to form against the teams like Leicester, the teams like Palace, then someone might get a bit of a hiding off us as well.
I mean, I wanted to ask something about formation and personnel earlier. And when we played Arsenal, we've tried Man City and Newcastle to an extent. We tried to play our normal way that we've been playing recently. And obviously, Nuno won that game against Liverpool, sacrificed some wingers, and everyone's going, well, why aren't we trying that? Do you ever think like maybe he's trying to be positive because he's striving to try and get there almost? Or do you think it's a different way of thinking that he's got maybe, I don't know, I'm just trying to get into a perspective from Nuno's point of view of trying to be positive rather than be defensive, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to get at, Reece.
There comes a point where you've got to stop worrying about other teams. Now, there's a fine line between not worrying about other teams and just being pig-headed and playing your way regardless. But there has got to be a point where we have to see a shift in the dynamic where Forest are putting a team out to be competitive. And by doing that against City and Arsenal, we could have gone there last night, part 5 behind the five at the back, 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it, and soaked it up, stunk the place out, possibly got a point. But in the same breath, we could have also still lost 3-0. So there's got to be a tipping point where if you want to be an established Premier League team, which we now feel like we're getting there, I wouldn't say we are there yet. There's still a few things that need to be done. You've got to, at some point, let loose and go, right, we're Nottingham Forest. This is how we play. We're not changing it just because you're Man City, just because you're Arsenal. Now, whether that works and whether you change it in the game, that isn't happening at the moment. That's my concern for me. When you can see, I mean, I put it in our chat last night, my biggest concern from the games I've seen this season, which is every game, we struggle with a number 10. Whether it's little Connor Chaplin, whether it's Odegaard, whoever it is, we struggle with a number 10 getting between our 2 central midfielders. And that 4-2-3-1, Nuno seen it last night, he's changed it at half-time. But for me, I think the next level would be, yes, we set out, we're Nottingham Forest, this is how we play. But if it gets to 30 minutes and it's not working, there is absolutely no shame in going, right, we'll drop someone in here. Maybe Morgan sit deeper, plays a natural free for a little bit. That's the next step for me. But I think the point is now where we're high enough in the league to express ourselves enough to play the way we want to play. Maybe in 2 or 3 months' time, if you're 14th, 15th and things aren't looking so rosy, you have to play the game a little bit and play what's in front of you and set out your tactics accordingly. But for now, for me, I quite like it. I admire it. We all asked Steve Cooper to be brave. We wanted that. We've got an identity and Nuno's playing it. And fair enough, it didn't work. But when it does, it comes off.
Do you think we're missing Sangare and Danilo, or at least one of them definitely in that respect, because they can cut out them passing lanes, can't they, really well?
Hugely. I mean, but you've got James Ward-Prowse there, who's a Premier League captain, who's over 400 games. I mean, we've invented a level of snobbery that 3 seasons ago. I mean, it was on my time hop the other day. I was at Barnsley at home 3-4 seasons ago. This time 3 years ago, and now, do you know what I mean? On a Tuesday night, and now we're sort of going, James Ward-Prowse not good enough. Free kick merchant. You've got someone there ready made to do it. So it's I expect massive changes on Saturday, to be honest, off the back of this. But whilst you haven't got an enforcer in Sangare, you expect your captain to step up and do it. But I'm not going down that one again.
Just on that. Yeah, I actually think Ward-Prowse might be the player at the minute to get a bit more out of Yates and Dominguez, because if you're going to play like against Arsenal, we played Ward-Prowse and we asked him to hold and sit. That's not his game. His game is he needs to be passing. He needs to kind of not be the sole person that's putting his foot in, because that's not his game. Closing down defenders and stuff like that, attackers and stuff, is not his game. But I think Reece is spot on there. We've got a player like some of the stuff that's been said about him. I mean, you'd think he was like Rafik Jabor without some people going on. I mean, like he says, we've got a Premier League captain who's played. Did he play like 400 odd times for West Ham?
He's played 400 plus Prem appearances.
Premier League games, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he might be really good at set pieces, and some people I mean, for the record, just before people say anything, I was the one who said that I wouldn't want us to pay 30 million quid, because I think he does rely on his set pieces a lot.
That's
what's giving him his career.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a big price. But to get him on loan for the season, and I think we've paid a fee, so there's no chance he's going back anytime soon. I think Nuno's got to sort of give him a run in the team at some point, and maybe after last night, that starts on Saturday, because it's absolutely scandalous that we're basically just washing our hands of him after a few. I mean, this isn't. I thought he was doing okay when he was in the team. He had that period, didn't he, where he was suspended and then he couldn't play against West Ham and all this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I think we need to give him a bit of a chance. I mean, after all, like I said before on this podcast, it seems to be your face has got to fit to get more than 1 or 2 games before we wash our hands of players. So, like we say, we've got a player who's vastly experienced, who happens to be really good at set pieces, and we've got Man United next. I mean, looking at them defending set pieces last night, he's got to play on Saturday, hasn't he? Because they're shambolic at the back. They're like us last season at the back. So, yeah.
Well, with all of us, pretty much to a man, been calling for a £7 million winger from the Portuguese league for God knows how long. So you can't not call for someone who's played 400 Premier League games in the same breath,
exactly,
and be shot down for it. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to go into Jota because you've not asked about him, but yeah, that's another one. I mean, but it's just the constant hypocrisy of it, isn't it? I mean, but beauty of football, I suppose.
We've said on this pod before, Lee, haven't we? Players seem to be better when they're not in the team as well. Although James Ward-Prowse seems to be worse that he's not in the team, weirdly enough. He's only had that one poor game, and I still think he was right to get sent off against Chelsea in that respect of the situation. But I did want to ask you both. I know we're not doing player performances, but I did want to ask about Anthony Elanga, because there was obviously polarising of him from the Ipswich game to yesterday. I actually thought he was actually probably our most effective player going forward, although a bit chaotic at times where he'd go inside and kind of forget the ball. But he was winning free kicks. He was beating his man. He did really well, I think, in the first half, where he takes Akanji down the line, I think it is, and he beats him on the byline and does really well. But what was your opinion of him, Reece? Does he start Saturday or no?
I mean, when we're saying good, he was probably a 6 out of 10, wasn't he?
But no one was above that, really, were they?
Exactly. Yeah, it was all right. I mean, he didn't do anything. I didn't see enough for him to rip the shirt off his back and sit him back on the bench. But then I also didn't see enough where if the team was very similar with Hudson-Odoi coming back in for him, I'd feel indifferent as well. I think what it actually shown us last night was really we need a left-footed right winger, really bad, because we just look a bit out of balance. But Elanga was all right. He was okay for me. Still speedboat, no driver. I mean, he gets a little bit. I don't know what it is with him. He off makes me laugh. I mean, last night my missus sort of walked over my shoulder and she's like, "Why does he do that when he runs?" And she's got no footballing knowledge at all. And I was like, "What do you mean?" So he like pushes it and his whole body's twitching, but he's not going anywhere. I was like, I don't know, I've never noticed it before. He just sort of pushes and runs, and he's like, his head's moving everywhere, and he's not really going anywhere. And I still feel, I mean, I don't think I've screamed "go on" at a player more in my life. Like the game opens up for him, and obviously, me being like one of the world's slowest players to ever play football, seeing someone like that with open grass in front of him, I just feel like just let yourself go, just open your legs and go. And he did it a few times last night, and I thought, do you know what, fair enough. And he was unlucky with his chance at the end. He's obviously tried to put it right in that top bin rather than sort of wrapping it around, but he couldn't do much more. So I'm just gutted that didn't go in, because I think that'd have done him the world of good last night. But it was all right. I feel indifferent about him. I just really want him to express himself and do it with a bit of purpose, rather than this straight line running into people. He had a lot of bit of soccer and bundle ability yesterday. Like, just sort of bounced through and like hit his shins, and he broke through, but he was okay.
I mean, Saturday's going to be a tough game, Lee. Obviously, Man United, new manager, they've lost their first game last night under Amorim, and since Ten Hag's actually been sacked, coincidentally, because Van Nistelrooy had a bit of a good run before he'd gone in at Leicester City. I mean, still not lost the Premier League game, Van Nistelrooy, being in charge. But what do you make? What do you make of the what do you make of the United game to come? Obviously, they're kind of in a transitional stage. Sorry, should I say? Amorim is kind of still trying to find out who his men are, because he keeps chopping and changing players. It would seem, from what I'm hearing on media reports and looking at their lineups. But how do you see it going? Because it's another tough test for us, regardless of where Man United are in the league.
Yeah, it's a tough test. It's United at Old Trafford at the end of the day still, isn't it? But, like I said, Sunday, new manager, they've got the same players. I think this would be a worse fixture to have after the January transfer window, when he's managed to kind of sift through his squad a little bit and see who he doesn't want. And they've had more than sort of a couple of weeks to get used to what he wants them to do. I think they've still got weaknesses. Like I said, they've still got the same players. So the mentality in the dressing room is, in theory, still pretty similar. Yeah, probably a good time to play them after they've just lost pretty convincingly to Arsenal as well. I know it was only 2-0, but looking at all the stats and the highlights and that sort of stuff, it looks like Arsenal were pretty comfortable. So, yeah, I'm still expecting a tough game. Like I've said already this morning, I still think this run could end in more defeats. It could get worse before it gets better. That's not being defeatist, but that's the Premier League for you. It's brutal. So we'll have to have a game plan. We'll have to have a clear structure of what we're trying to do, and we just need to try and pinpoint their weaknesses and see what we can do. I am going to mention Jota Silva a little bit. I know we've not mentioned it, but just touching on Reese's bit about Elanga, the one thing I would say is that I've not seen anything from Jota Silva in the 2 games he started that warrants Elanga being lambasted and questioned whether he should ever play for Forest ever again. I know he won a penalty against Ipswich and he did something really good in the first 5 minutes. But Darren Fletcher on Forest Focus podcast was spot on. Other than that first 5 minutes and winning the penalty, he did very little against Ipswich. And it was the same last night. He gives far too many. He's very raw in English football for me. I think at the minute he's proven in the 2 games that he's much better as a sub. What he brings to a team is much more impactful off the bench. He's kind of hard for players who have been on the pitch for an hour to get used to him coming on as a sub. I think as a starter, he quickly gets very predictable, I think. So that's where I'm at with the Elanga situation at the moment. I
agree with that on Jota. He's a bee in a bottle, isn't he?
He's very raw. He's still very raw for me.
Just buzzes about. That's it.
I like him. I think he's a good signing. I think he's going to be a good player for us, but he's still very raw. I think he'd be better. His development would be better suited at the moment. He deserved his start. I think we all said that on here. But for me, I just don't. I agree with you, Adam. I thought Elanga was all right last night.
My favourite Jota Silva moment from last night was in fouling Grealish, and Grealish half looking up at him going, are you trying to be me? There's like a little look at each other, like they gave each other a nod as if to say, nice headband, mate, and pulled each other up. And that was the only thing he did half decent last night, was sort of mimic Grealish and follow him around the pitch like a lapdog, wanting his affection. I think there was an actual point where he was chasing someone down and his shin pad stopped showing his name and he stopped to adjust his sock for his shin pad. And that tipped me over the edge, I think, as well. I think after that, I think that would be done. I think
I tell you what
think-
did really make me laugh about Grealish last night, and I love Jack Grealish as a player. I think it's one thing that me and Reese, the OG Reese, have got in common. We love Jack Grealish, and all this stuff about him not scoring or assisting, for 24 and stuff like that is a load of rubbish. It's stats. I tell you what, it does make me laugh with Jack Grealish. How he laughed when Jota was trying to plead that he got the ball. He kind of laughed, and then someone a bit later on, someone threw themselves on the floor. It might have been Marino or something, and wanted a free kick and didn't get it. And he had a little laugh as if to say, "Get up." And I'm thinking, I like you, Jack Grealish, but you're acting like you never throw yourself on the floor to try and gain a bit of a cheeky free kick. I mean, you can't then moan when other players go and do it. It just made me laugh. That's all. I thought it was really funny.
I have to say that I know it's not let's laud Man City and say, "Oh, well done, you're brilliant," but Jack Grealish was sensational last night. He's so hard to get the ball off. I just you think you got him, and then suddenly he just turns and he's just got space to run into, and just crap haircut. But yeah, wonderful footballer. Lovely footballer.
Cheap as well.
Yeah, it's
100 million.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, massively cheap. I think it's very telling that with us in the transfer market at the end of the season, at the end of the summer, we needed just reinforcements to bulk out the squad. And I think Jota, and I mean, we've not seen Ramon Sosa, so we can't really judge him fully. But in the glimpses you've seen, you're like, he's not shown what you've seen from Jota almost to get that start, have you? So I'm kind of just thinking, did we get them players because one that we got both of them for under £30 million? Were they just to basically be backups, be kind of challenge, maybe give Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga a little bit of a nudge, saying we've got players that we can play, but maybe they're not. Maybe we think they're not as big a threat as we maybe perceive, but there's still time. We could still be proven wrong, and I don't want to write them off as such because you just never know. But that's just kind of what the feeling I get right now. But just want to ask you both, because we're a bit unsure if we're going to do a Man U pod or not preview. But I wanted both of your what your team would be for Saturday, because obviously we changed formation second half, went 3-4-3, and it did work to an extent, and then it kind of petered out once the third went in and kind of didn't look. I mean, I'm so sorry for Morata, conceded a goal already. Now it's all downhill from here, pal. Reece, what would your lineup be for Saturday? Would you stick with the 4-2-3-1, and would you change anyone personnel wise?
I'd stick with the 4-2-3-1 because they play quite a rigid 3-4-3, so it gives you a couple of corridors to play in. I'd have your standard back five. I've got a funny feeling he might put Nico back in for some reason, but I'd probably have Moreno, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Sells in goal. I would actually have Ward-Prowse and Anderson in there, with Morgan by the skin in his fingernails clinging onto the number 10 spot at the moment. Elanga, Cho, Wood, probably.
That's fair. Lee?
But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Anderson in the 10 and possibly Dominguez alongside Anderson.
That's fair. Lee?
Yeah, I can't go on Sunday's pod and saying that Nico Dominguez should never be dropped and then drop him 2 games later. But I did quite like the sound of that team. I don't think playing Ward-Prowse alongside Anderson is for me just yet. I don't think it's a bad combination. I just think because neither of them have played much football, I'd probably go with the same back five. Dominguez. It's what I would play and not what I think Nuno will play, isn't it? I'd go Nico and Ward-Prowse, and I'd go. Yeah, I'm torn on. I just seem to think I love Gibbs White, but I just think at the minute Anderson might be a better option for the Man United game, as unpopular as that might be. I tell you what, I'll mix it up a bit. I will go for, as it's Man U, I'd go Elanga playing. I think Hudson-Odoi is going to play. Actually, play Elanga. I don't know. You put me on the spot a bit here. I'd like a bit of time for this. I'll go for Anderson in the 10. I think Anderson in the 10. I think perhaps Gibbs White is still nursing some effects of that ankle injury. And obviously the game's coming thick and fast. So Anderson in the 10. I think Hudson-Odoi is going to play because he didn't get any minutes last night. And then what he could always do, and what I think might be a nice idea, is Gibbs White coming in off the right with Wood up front. Just to try, because I think there's a point that we perhaps need to try a little bit harder to get Anderson and Gibbs White playing in the same team together. I think we can be really dangerous if they're playing together, but it's just how they squeeze in when they're both kind of more suited to that number 10 role.
If you're playing that, I reckon he might play Anderson. He'd play Anderson wide rather than Gibbs White, because I think just when Nuno come back in, his first thought was get Gibbs White back in behind the striker, and it proved to be a pretty good thing to do. Really, I just can't see it.
I also think with Anderson playing in the 10, he's probably more suited to that role of having to drop back and make a 3 out of possession. I think he probably does that better than Gibbs White. And against United, there's going to be times where we're going to have to do some defending, isn't there, against United?
Of course there is. I mean, I prefer Elliot Anderson down the middle anyway. I don't like him playing wide. I just think it's not that he's ineffective. I just think you don't utilise his skill set as well. And I just think he's someone that will get stuck in. He can play football. He can keep it. He's got a nice way about him. I thought he came on and did all right last night, actually. Anderson, it was just you're losing 3-0, and it's a game where it's done, it's dusted. Everyone's ready to go home and get in their cars and wait in traffic for about an hour. So yeah, I'd play Elliot Anderson. I'd keep saying back 5. Elliot Anderson would partner Dominguez in midfield for me. Gibbs White in front. Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood. That's what my team would be. And do you know what I'd say to Man United? Do you know what we're going to put it on you and try and go for you? I don't see why not. I credit Nuno for trying that last night. We created chances. We could have scored another day. Chris Wood scores out another day. I'm sure he's probably thinking, can I have that chance again? Because he might do something a bit different. And I think Man United are vulnerable enough to really go at them, and we can create chances, set pieces, and in open play for me. I just think that we can do that. I don't see why not. And Old Trafford's going to be a bit tetchy if we can rattle them a bit. But it's a game where I think do we have to go and win? Do we have to get a result? I'm not sure, but it's a game where we can definitely get one, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, Reece.
You can get no, not. I don't know. I'm protecting myself. I'm doing that thing where I go, well, I did it last season. Like, oh, we're going down, and then when we don't, I'm like, yeah, I knew it. We're all right. I'm just protecting myself. It depends, doesn't it? It depends if the one. I just don't want to see Garnacho score. I don't mind what else happens. I just don't want to see that little score. There's always an opportunity. There's always a chance. But for me, it's on to the next. But who knows? If you go there and get a draw, then that's an unbelievable result, in my opinion. But for me, probably a step too far. But you don't know. It's football.
What's your score prediction?
All that said, Forest are going to win 2-1.
That was some almighty backtracking. Yeah, I tend to agree with all of that. I think it will be tough. A bit like the City game last night, it's important to get that crowd against them, isn't it? If we go and concede in the first 20 minutes, it's another fixture that you look at and you think that this is going to be a long night. That said, I do see enough in United to think we can go there. I don't think we can win. I just don't think we will win. But I do think it might be a draw. I think we might really frustrate United. I think it'll be a high-scoring draw, 2-2.
It says this every week.
I don't. Bingo, I've not said 2-2 for ages now. I'm going 2-2.
Oh dear.
It's going to come off at 1 point, isn't it?
Of course it is. It did against Brighton. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going to go 1-1 actually. I generally think it might be a bit of not a drab game, but I just think it will go to and fro and then end up being a draw of 1-1. And I think Chris Wood will break the record on Saturday. Should have broke it yesterday, but he's going to break the record Saturday instead. And yeah, we're going to get a good point, and we're all going to feel a bit better about ourselves come Sunday morning. But yeah, any last thoughts, guys? Reese, Lee?
No, nothing from me. I mean, obviously we'll be watching it in a pub, Adam. So
Yeah, with Christmas jumpers on.
With Christmas jumpers on, with my official Forest merchandise Christmas jumper, obviously. Yeah,
this is not an advertisement.
Other retailers are available for your Forest Christmas jumpers. Just
they are. It's just the badge is a bit off. But no, yeah, it's not the same. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for this next few weeks. I mean, I get so down when the international break's on. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Like we're saying all this, and where are we? 6th, 7th?
Still 6th.
Still.
It's an absolute pipe dream.
It's unlikely we will be after tonight, but yeah, at the minute.
But that last night, I didn't even look once and go, yes, Chelsea are battering Southampton. Nah. I'm not bothered. Do you know what I mean? You just enjoy it for what it is, and just keep being the divisive fan base we are, and keep falling out of each other when we lose to the world's best team. It's beautiful, isn't it? We won't have it any other way.
Definitely. Lee?
Yeah, so I'm the same actually. I won't really care too much about Saturday. I won't be looking at social media. I am going to run the line at Gedling Miners Welfare if it's on, weather permitting, because the forecast's not good. And then I'm going to watch the game, and then I've got a bit of a Christmas do out in town, so I won't really care. Like Reece says, I'd care more if another defeat meant we were going to be slipping ever closer to that bottom 3, but we're not. We're still going to have 22 points. We're probably still going to be top of the bottom half at very worst. So yeah, let's enjoy it for what it is. Let's stop worrying about. It's almost like because we've started so well, everyone just expects us now to turn up into town and roll these teams over, and that's not the Premier League. Like when you're in the Championship and you're near the top, yeah, you can feel like that. You never feel like that as a club like Forest in this league. So yeah, it's nearly Christmas. Stock up on booze, stock up on mince pies or non-alcoholic drinks in this day and age, if that's what floats your boat, and just enjoy Christmas, being nowhere near the relegation zone, and hopefully looking forward to a positive second half of the season.
Flip that up and show it you after Everton away when we're like languishing just above the relegation zone.
It was lower than the snake's belly, and it's just there. Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, it's going to be great next 5 games, obviously during this festive period. But like you say, let's enjoy it. At least it's football nearly every other day. It's going to be great. But yeah, until next time when we come to, there's either going to be a Man United preview or not. We'll see what happens with that one. But until next time, enjoy the rest of your day and come on, you Reds.